Coming to Bali just really wanting this simple life. Bali didn't really give me peace, it gave me confrontation. I like to be labeled as the expat entrepreneur, how I wanted to be seen as healed, as successful. I judge people who are not as spiritual as me, or oh my god, I feel crazy. Am I really evolving, or I just created a life visually which looks like I evolved? Hello everyone, if you don't know me, my name is Althea. I'm Indonesian. I've been living in Bali for 2 years, and in this video I want to tell you my side of story and how Bali really changed me in a profound way. When I first came to Bali, I came here for the same reason probably as everybody else. For the lifestyle, the freedom, the sun, the beach, the community. I thought this island would make me feel calmer and softer, but Bali didn't really give me peace, it gave me confrontation. I escaped the classic 9 to 5 jobs. I was living in France for 12 years. I was hustling, I had no room to breathe, and when there was COVID, it was a very huge moment for me to have a self-reflection on how I will go and continue my life. I was never happy to work in my job. First of all, it was never my type of life that I imagined for myself, and especially for someone who immigrated to France to find a better life. It doesn't help me grow or make me more ambitious as a person. I was really escaping from a version of myself that I don't really like. I was needing validation 24/7. I couldn't really find my place, to be honest, in Europe. It was really hard for me. So finding my community was a big part of what I want to become and the direction of life that I want to pursue. Before coming to Bali, I was really big into meditation, breath work, all sort of healing methodologies. So that was when the first idea of Bali came to my mind. I read this book that really changed my life. It's called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy, and it really changed my perspective 180 degree. And I realized that my mind has been imprisoned all this time by society standards and what society has told us to do. Oh my god, I feel crazy because no one in my surrounding at that time was thinking as myself, and I don't see life the same way anymore, so everything doesn't make sense anymore. And I attended this seminar by Danny Morel in the US, Texas, and it was basically a 3-day breathwork intense, and on that breathwork time I was like seeing all the version of myself, all my ancestors, etc. Well, if you are into meditation, maybe you can understand what I'm talking about. I realized a lot of trauma that I have from childhood, from every little thing. I can see all the patterns that doesn't make sense to me, that blocking me to become the best version of myself. Staying in France wouldn't allow me to grow spiritually because it was my priority at that time. Let's talk about the fantasy versus reality. The illusion about Bali is healing has been the biggest motivator for me to come, because all the places that I can do for that and get rid of my trauma, because it was like my number one priority, and really create a new life and a new version of myself which I can love. I didn't like how I react to things, the friends I choose, the job I have, so it's really like reinvention project. When I arrived here the first time after several years, because I've been to Bali before, but this time I haven't this intention in mind, on December 2023. And the first thing, I went to Uluwatu and I saw these cliffs and sea and beaches and all the people. I think, oh my god, finally I can be here. These people go to like gym every day, everyone is healthy, everyone is aware about that they have to work on themselves, to go to yoga, to breath work, to have this healing mindset that we can be better each day. And I feel like finally, okay, I found my place. So that is the illusion that I have the first like 3-4 months I arrived here. I was convincing myself that everyone in Bali is like that, are spiritual, are into self-growth and self-development, which is true. The majority of people's more than when I was in Europe, for sure. Like, this is not a topic in Europe to talk about like healing and trauma, etc. But coming here, yeah, I feel more free that I can talk about this thing like as if it's normal and everyone is doing the same thing anyway, so it's not shocking or not culturally unacceptable. I felt most lonely in Bali when I realized that everyone came here for the same reason as I am, but everyone is still healing alone. There is community, there is events, there is healing circles, but at the end of the day, everyone goes back to their room, to their own wounds, to their own thoughts. And I expected Bali to be like a shared journey transformation, but it's actually very individual. And that's when I understand that no place can do a healing for you. What Bali actually showed me about myself, this is like the weirdest thing, is being into self-growth and self-development has become my new identity. As we talk about like spirituality, normally we shouldn't have identity. It's like shedding off every part of you that doesn't serve you and be as open as possible, seeing life without judgment. But the spirituality part has taken over my life. I've been implementing it as my new self. I judge people who are not as spiritual as me or not into gym lifestyle as me. It's kind of like the ego still taking over. And so I was thinking, okay, so actually I was just becoming spiritual for another self-validation that I created. Bali has also helped me to feel alive. It is really when I came here, I went to Nusa Penida. And if you've been there, you know that it's really still underdeveloped in terms of routes, in terms of infrastructure. So to go to the touristic places is kind of dangerous. I remember going to this temple inside a waterfall, and you have to go all the way down on a cliff on the stairs, and like a very dangerous stair. And I remember like seeing and smelling that below my feet, and that was the time like, oh my god, Bali will confront you to your fear. And this is the first day and I was already confronted of my fear of death. Also felt so alive when I opened my restaurant. It was a very uncertain moment, but it was very moving. I know that I live in the uncertainty. This is what fuels me to do my best. I realized that when everything is too calm, I don't feel anything. When I create something which is bigger than me, which is new, the first time for me, I feel alive. And Bali is known for slowing down, but it's actually made me realize how ambitious I am. Bali has also exposed me to my ego in a very subtle ways. This one is kind of shocking. I realized that while building my restaurant and have this journey, right, I like to be labeled as the expat entrepreneur while I'm Indonesian, and to be known as someone who built something in paradise. At that time, I had to ask myself, was I building something really meaningful, or was I building an identity which looked good for someone else? It exposed so much how I wanted to be seen as healed, as successful, as spiritually aware. But growth is really not aesthetic, it's actually very uncomfortable. At some point, I think I was hiding behind a Bali lifestyle. So I was posting all this like yoga, cafe, doing sunset, being surrounded by good people, doing all this routine which I think everyone has dreamed of. To be honest, sometimes inside I feel really distracted. Am I really evolving, or I just created a life visually which looks like I evolved? Coming to Bali, just really wanting this simple life, a house in the middle of rice field, spending time on sunset, all this simple life, because I feel like the island would, make me less ambitious, but it actually gave me more ambition, because seeing people who came to Bali and all the things that they built while having the same starting point as I am, and seeing what's possible, it made me want more things. Not more money just to have it, but more ownership, more impact, and more control over my life. But there were also times when it felt really comfortable, and comfort really shrink ambition if I was not careful. Before Bali, money felt like a security, a tool for survival. I like to really spend it, to be honest. When in France, I receive my salary, I buy bags, jewelry, etc. But when I'm in Bali, I realized that it's actually a tool for leverage, because people here who has money wouldn't spend it anyway. No one really cares if you wear a Rolex or a Hermes in Bali, because it's really not the vibe. It became less about surviving but more about choosing. So choosing my schedule, choosing my projects, choosing my life, and having more control. But in the contrary of that, because we love to be in contrast every time. I also learned that the cost of living cheap can make you underestimate your own potential. Life is affordable, you accidentally settle. But this is the case not for me, because I know that living here can allow me to leverage what I gain, a project that I can pour my heart into and again grow as a person. This has changed my relationship with all the material things. I still want it, I still love it, but it doesn't came as priority anymore. The priority for me right now is freedom. And Bali really can make me feel productive without actually being productive. For example, there's always a cafe to try, there's always a new business just open up, a workshop to attend, a sunset to chase. And I had to ask myself, am I really building wealth, or is it just a curated chapter of a beautiful life? I think Bali didn't make me feel distracted, but it exposed where I lack discipline. And once I see it, I cannot unsee it. Freedom without structure can really feel like growth, but am I really in my expansion? Let's talk relationships. Bali has really changed my view in a relationship in a very quiet way. When I first came here, everything felt romantic. The sunset, the cafe, slow morning, slow life, like really alive in paradise. And I think at the beginning, love felt very comfortable, like companionship inside something beautiful. But when you have more space, more time, you start noticing things, not dramatic, but like subtle changes. When I remove everything like routine, noise, I confront myself faster. I change faster. When I change, the dynamic of every relationship, like friendship, my parents with Steven, change fast as well. I don't like to say that I grew some relationships that I have in my life. Some connections are built for some chapters in our life. It cannot last forever, and that's okay, because the real relationship that I have, I realize, is with myself. Bali for me was an intense chapter. It compressed like years of self-discovery into a short period of time. So I created here a lot of friendships, and I met a lot of people. Some bonds really like very deep, and some bonds just fades naturally. Even in a 2-year span, I change people quite often. And I learned that letting go of someone what is not aligned with who I am anymore, it doesn't mean that something wasn't real. It just means that I grow and you grow, and then we just chose to go on a different path. And that's okay, and that's normal in life. When I was younger, every time I end a friendship or relationship, it really devastating for me. I feel like there is something wrong with me, that someone can leave me or abandon me, but it's actually just a redirection of life, and we all have a different life path and timeline, so it's okay to change every time the connections. It's true that Bali looks very social, it's very community driven. There is healing circles, events every night. But I've never spent so much time with myself like this before. And it can feel lonely. Then I realized that being alone is not the same as being lonely. I learned how to sit with myself without shrinking. I go to a cafe alone and really it's the best time ever. And in my relationship, I become softer but more honest. I stopped downplaying my ambition. I stopped hiding who I am. When I was in a corporate world, people don't accept me easily because I'm kind of different. I like to dress up. I like to be this person, this girly girl, and I kind of just blend like everyone else, and it was something I struggle with because I feel like there's something wrong with me that people cannot accept. Did I become more spiritual or more strategic? I came here thinking, okay, I would become like this spiritual person. I even thought that, okay, I can live off my life as a yoga teacher or a breathwork facilitator, which I already learned at that time before coming here. I became more aware, more reflective, but I also became more strategic. I realized that spirituality without strategy wouldn't build anything, and strategy without spirituality would just burn you out. So Bali didn't make me choose between being soft and ambitious. I can integrate both. The real goal is not to become more spiritual or more successful, but to be the most authentic self. And it's really hard because I have to integrate every part of my life and every lesson that I have, and to not care of what my ego says. The real goal to build finally something which is true and aligned to who I am as a person. And this is what Bali has really taught me. Bali has changed me in a way, but it also revealed me a lot of things I didn't know about myself. It revealed how ambitious I am even when I try to slow down. It revealed that freedom without structure wouldn't last long for me. This island didn't turn me into someone new. It only stripped away the noise so I could see really who I was becoming. And maybe that's why it feels different now. Because when a place finishes teaching you what you needed to learn, you start feeling it. Not in a dramatic way, in a quiet internal shift. Bali gave me softness, it gave me courage, it gave me expansion. But it also showed me that I'm not meant to stay this version of myself for long. And maybe that's the real gift. Not the sunset, not the lifestyle, but the clarity of who I am now and who I'm ready to become next. So this is the first part of how Bali has changed me. If you like it, don't forget to subscribe for part 2 next week. Bye!